Ready to hop in?
Yeah.
All right, Stephen Waldron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming out. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
It means a lot to
thank you.
me. Now you're in a couple of different endeavors.
Yes.
Me and you actually met because I own a gym over in Owensville, Missouri, and I had some spin bikes there, and they needed fixed.
That's right.
And I know very little about them, and so I was like just doing some googling. Your name popped up, your business popped up as, I always search like. Whenever I'm looking for someone to help me in whatever business, whether it's construction or whatever I'm doing in my life, I literally just Google what I'm looking for, and then I just type in near me. And then whatever pops up as like, and it has good, like whatever pops up basically first with a bunch of good reviews, that's what I go after. And Bourbon Cyclery,
That's right.
which is your business, one of them, is what popped up. So I gave you a call, you answered, and you were, just super friendly, way nicer than probably, I would say 90% of business owners. You were like super helpful on the phone. You were willing to come over and check out my bikes, willing to, meet me for whatever hours, and you're like, we'll make it work. And that's how we kind of met together. So can you tell us, so you have Bourbon Cyclery over in Bourbon, Missouri.
Correct.
But which is a bike shop. But what else do you do? Because I know you do some other things. So what are these other endeavors?
Well, yeah. So obviously, I have the bike shop. I manage it day to day. We do obviously bikes and outdoor gear and that kind of thing. But I also work as business development manager for a company called HydroPro Incorporated. It's an engineered tooling company. We work worldwide. It's based in Bourbon. So I've been working there about 16 years, and then I also teach college part-time for Columbia College in their business department, volunteer in the community. So I've been on the Board of Education in Bourbon for 6 years, past 5 as the president, and looking to go for re-election this coming year. Been on the PTO in Bourbon for the past 7 years. I'm also married, have 3 kids, so stay pretty busy.
I'd say busy life. Very
Absolutely.
busy life.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to the point where we're talking about Bourbon Cyclery and how we got there. But Bourbon Cyclery is your newest adventure, basically.
Yeah, so basically what it is I got into cycling, I don't remember how many years ago now, but as a way to get fit, essentially. And then I realized that not only is it something I can do on my own, it's something my family can enjoy, something that I can encourage friends and other people I know to get into, and it's a great way to stay fit. It's easy on the joints, that kind of thing. There's a huge cycling community in our area, from Owensville, Bell down to Steelville, and a big circle essentially that encompasses Union.
I think it's just growing in the world.
Yeah, it's just and where we live, there's a lot of gravel roads, as you know, because we're pretty close to one right now, I think. But,
yeah.
So the gravel cycling community is huge, and it's growing throughout the nation, and that's kind of what I got into. That's how I got into bicycling as a whole. And so what happened was one day my boss and I at HydroPro, he and I were talking, and we just kind of decided, hey, we'd love to start a bike shop. It's a good way to encourage people to stay healthy, get fit, that kind of thing, get outside, enjoy the outdoors. We've got an amazing, beautiful community we live in with the rivers nearby and everything. So we started looking at opportunities. One came up for a building in town through a friend. We rented a space and opened a bike shop, kind of just on a whim.
Yeah.
So my job's kind of weird because I work full time for this other company from the bike shop. So people will walk in and I'm sitting there typing away at my desk. Well, I'm not
for HydroPro.
You're
working for HydroPro.
Yeah, I'm not typing up like sales orders or something for bikes left and right. I'm typing up things for international customers at HydroPro. I might be on the phone when people come in discussing a job with that company and so on. And then I, break from that to help out customers with the bicycles. If I just need a break from paperwork, I'll step back in the back and start working on a bike, that kind of thing.
I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah, it's a great system for me for sure. And it works out well. And I think it's helped a lot. There's a lot of people over the past year that we've been open who have come in and been introduced to bicycling or reintroduced to it. most of us had bikes when we were kids. And we didn't know what the hell we were doing on them. And
Mhm.
now, as
Yeah,
you get older,
when you were a
you're
kid,
fine,
you went to Walmart, you got a cheap bike,
exactly.
and you rode around town, and you probably loved it. And that's like just the oldest saying, basically, ever is like not ever, but it's like once you ride a bike, you never forget.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so almost everybody's always rode a bike, and it's one thing that almost everybody has some type of memory with.
Yeah.
And I think
Good or bad.
Yeah, good or bad. I mean, I remember when I first learned to ride a bike, my dad put me on a bike that had like the brakes that you pedal backwards to lock it up, so you can lock the back tire up. And I didn't know how to use them, and he literally just put me on this bike and put me at the top of the hill. And it was just like at my house and just pushed me down it. Yep. And I rode down until I smoked because I didn't know how to stop. So I just smoked the bush at the bottom. And that's how I learned to gain some balance on a bike. That was my first biking experience.
Well, that's how I basically taught my daughters. I threw them down a hill and I said, if you don't want to fall, keep pedaling.
Yeah. Yeah. Until you plane out and then you kind of just coast over to the side a little bit.
Exactly. Yep.
So, yeah, I'd like to talk about that. And I'm sure like the whole, especially because what year did you open Bourbon Cyclery?
We've only been open officially for about a year. We opened last November.
Oh, so it wasn't even COVID time.
Right.
It was after COVID.
We started the discussion before COVID, and then spring of 2021 or spring of 2021, we got the opportunity to do the building. We officially opened the business, business license, started setting up establishing relationships with vendors, that kind of thing, in probably June of last year. We actually started doing business with people that we know, started doing service work, that kind of thing for people in the community before we had the doors open at the store. I was meeting people at the storefront and then taking their bikes home and working on them and then taking them back and meeting them. In November of last year, we officially opened the doors and we were able to start moving forward with things. But
yeah, but that made a big difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I definitely want to travel back to this, but I would like also, because I like the journey. I like everybody's journey. I'd love to hear about it. And did you have a weight loss journey too in this?
I did,
in this process?
So you can't tell probably from looking at me sitting down, but I'm 6'4". I'm about 210 pounds, and that's healthy. I was about 285 pounds at one point. I was not healthy weight. Basically, my knees were shot because I'm tall and played catcher for 8 years, which is not very smart for somebody my height. So
definitely a short man's position.
Exactly, yeah. So I went out and I remember I did what a lot of people do. I lived on a gravel road at the time. I'm like, I'm going to go find a mountain bike. Gravel road, mountain, makes sense. So I went and bought the cheapest one I could find. Spent like $30 on an old Walmart POS.
Yeah. Like off like a marketplace find or something?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was actually Facebook Marketplace probably, or maybe that, maybe Craigslist or something. I don't know. But I took it out. I rode it maybe 2 or 3 times. Fell on my face a couple times. Decided I hated it. Sold it for $30 and moved on and just kind of forgot the idea and started trying to walk and do other things that just didn't work real well. And then I had a friend of mine who's about the same height as me, but he's fit, and I talked to him. Turns out he's a big cyclist, and he kind of explained to me that I didn't need a mountain bike. I needed a different type of bike. And in my case, I had moved to a paved area. He said a road bike would be ideal, or maybe a gravel bike, and he kind of explained to me what the differences are. And I remember I ordered this bike. He helped me pick one out online. I bought it, got it in. A friend of mine helped me assemble it. And I took a ride on around the neighborhood, and I got back, and my wife asked me what I thought, and I just had the biggest, stupidest grin on my face, and I was like, I didn't know it was possible to be this comfortable in a bicycle. I had no idea it was even feasible to have a bike that was so smooth riding and that rode so nicely. And I just fell in love after that, I remember the first real ride I took, it was almost embarrassing to admit, but I left my neighborhood. I went, I think, 2.5 miles. I went one way about 1.5 miles and back, so roughly 3 miles probably. I was drenched in sweat. I mean, my clothes were like, you could wring the sweat out of them. I was so out of shape. I thought I was going to die after that ride. I sat in front of a fan in my garage for like 40 minutes afterwards. But I loved it. You know? It was just so much fun. Now I can jump on a bike and ride 40 miles and it doesn't faze me. But that first 3 mile ride, man, that did it for me. I couldn't even get up this hill in Bourbon that I just cruise up all the time now.
And literally just came down to making sure you get the right equipment.
Oh, absolutely. That's
just
the
not
biggest
just
thing
cheaping out
with
on
cycling. Yeah, you get a lot of people that come into the store that kind of the same thing as me. They're like, "Oh, I live on a gravel road. I need a mountain bike." I'm like, "Well, what's your goals? What do you want to do with the bike? Why are you wanting to ride a bike? Are you commuting? Are you riding through mountain trails? Are you just going back and forth? Are you looking to lose weight?" And I'd say probably 70% of the time somebody comes in looking for a specific type of bike, they end up choosing something else because
they didn't even know the other one existed.
exactly what their needs are don't match what they thought they needed.
When I came into your shop for the first time, I think that was like the first time I actually ever, maybe not the first time I ever went into a bike shop, but it was the first time I actually just got to because I didn't know these other bikes.
Right.
And I grew up, actually, when I was really young, I grew up skateboarding. So I was in a lot of skateboard shops, and they had a few bikes on the wall, or bikes in the place.
Probably BMX bikes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was never like the bikes that you have. And you had a bunch of different style bikes. You even had some bikes that had some big old fat tires on it with a motor and or a battery powered, I guess is what it is. And that they were built for hunting.
Exactly.
For guys that can go out and hunting, you had one that has a rack on it. You can put a gun, like a rifle, in it.
Yep.
And I guess they're not noisy, and you could just ride them into the woods with and you actually said you could probably drag a small deer out with it too.
Yeah, I'm actually teaming up with a local hunting team that does YouTube videos, has a YouTube channel called Vision Outdoors, and going to be working on a sponsorship with them where they're going to be using those bikes in some of their videos and that kind of thing. So
it seems more logical than maybe like a four-wheeler or something.
Well,
if you're headed out,
a lot of like government land, say federal, state, whatever, you're not allowed to take gas-powered vehicles on those pieces of property because they're a fire hazard. You've got sparking gas engines. You are allowed to take an electric vehicle, so the electric bikes make a big difference. People are able to take those into areas that you can't go on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler. And they do help with getting up hills. They help with you traversing rough terrain and getting further into the woods, that kind of thing. And yeah, they do sell trailers and all that, so you can haul deer back out. And it's pretty cool technology.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys that they take a four-wheeler out into the woods, and it's noisy. It smells. Yeah, it's probably making it harder on yourself. So to have this, and you said it was pretty inexpensive for the whole aspect of it, right? I mean,
That's
for what it is, what's an electric bike run? Something like I was looking at today.
The e-bikes start right now. There's some on sale, but they start around $1,000 roughly. And the most expensive one I have in the store right now is $1,800. So they're not horrible.
Is that decked out?
No. The one, if you wanted to add racks and stuff, you do have to pay a little more. So the one you saw with the gun rack on it and all that, it's going to be right at $2,000 with those racks on it. Trailers cost a little more, that kind of thing. Now there's other brands I offer that go up from there. So I'm a Rambo dealer. Rambos start around $1,800 and you can spend $8,000 on a Rambo that's got dual motors and full suspension. It's the fanciest bike out there. Most people I know aren't going to spend $8,000 on an e-bike, but people do it. That's why they offer them. So
yeah, well, I guess maybe if you're a really big hunter, and you're hunting on maybe thousands of acres, and you're doing a ton of walking, it might be a good idea.
Well, I've got some friends that go out west and they do bigger game hunting, and or even long distance hunting. Where they're on the side of a mountain, essentially shooting down into a valley or across to the other side of another mountain. And the amount of time it takes just to hike to their hunting location, and then you shoot 600 yards away, and then you have to hike all the way there to get it. It's just insane. So something like this makes it way easier to get from place to place, and they can shoot that animal and get there and find the game they just got and that kind of thing. And just the ease of hauling it too. Because if you have a four-wheeler, you use a four-wheeler to drive out in the woods and haul the deer back and stuff like that. I have, even at my gym, I have a significant amount of people that come in, and I'll even see them. They'll bring their camping gear, because they go out west somewhere to go hunting, and they bring all their camping gear in. They walk on the treadmill at a really high incline, so they can start prepping themselves for whenever they go out west hunting.
And so to be able to have a bike that you could just maybe get a bike rack and set it on that bike rack, whether you take an SUV or a pickup truck, that's got to be a lot easier than having to load up a big four-wheeler.
Yeah,
and then like you were saying, if you're hunting on public ground, you're not even going to be able to take you ain't going to be able to take that four-wheeler anyway. So this might be something that's going to be able to really help you out. And especially when the older you get, you know, you can prep and you can get in shape, but at the same time, like you have, you know, your joints and things are just starting to wear out. So if you have a bike that's just going to help you out.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if, you know, you'd use the motor going up the mountain and you just coast back down, there's not much to it. So.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, they've got sleds and stuff you can put on the back of you can tie a rope with a sled on the back of the bike and haul a deer out. Some of the guys, you know, that haul a lot of gear, they can use a trailer or a rack on the back of the bike and haul all their gear with them. And it's just way easier than, you know, trying to hike and
hoof it or throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. Well, let's we'll come back to this too, but I'd like to see like where you started from. Day one, what made you get into? You must have went to school for business or something, or how'd you get into it? Because you've been working for HydroPro for 16 years. And what's your actual position at HydroPro? What's that position considered?
Well, it's essentially the director of business development. What that is it encompasses sales and marketing. That's what I do. So we are an international company. I say that we're a domestic company that works internationally with companies all over the world. So what we do is we have a very niche industry we work in. We make a custom tool that's used to build heat exchangers in industrial applications. So we work with chemical plants, oil refineries, natural gas production, that kind of thing. Just some companies you've never heard of and some that you have. So, for example, in the nuclear industry, they make very specific types of heat exchangers that are used in nuclear-powered naval vessels like submarines and things like that. And we work with companies here in the U.S. that manufacture those for the military. We work with companies that manufacture things like that for other countries' naval vessels. For example, back in July, I was in England. I had a meeting at Rolls-Royce. Everybody knows Rolls-Royce for their cars, but people kind of forget that they also make airplane engines, and they actually work with the naval applications and make nuclear applications for that. So we work with them in that regard. But we also work with like ExxonMobil. We work with Citgo, people that everybody knows because they, you know, power their cars with gasoline and diesel fuel. Back in June, I worked for 2 weeks at a refinery in Canada. It was a refinery that nobody here would know because it's locally owned there, but it was a diesel refinery. And the area I worked in was part of a plant that was making, you know, refining diesel fuel. So everybody knows how that works. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, we work in a very unique industry, I think. Again, all over the world. That is very unique. So yeah, it's strange.
It's amazing to me how people even get into, you know, to come up with the idea to make the part, to start selling it. And then it's even more amazing because it's not an easy task to even come up with it and make it, but it's an even harder task to distribute it.
And that's kind of where I come in is mm-hmm. finding, you know, those specific customers. That's the biggest thing, is finding who actually needs what we do and what we offer and what we sell, and then convince them that our technology is the best available for them and go around the world and do that. So at any given time, I might be working on projects in 6 or 8 different countries. Like right now, over the course of the next 4 months, I have projects scheduled in 5 different countries. The call I took on the way here was actually regarding a job in Bangladesh that's happening in the next week. Got customers in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Netherlands, just all over the place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was actually at a conference last Wednesday in just outside of Amsterdam in Netherlands, meeting with people from England and Spain and Germany regarding our technology and that kind of thing.
So yeah, you do a lot of traveling then.
Sometimes, yeah, it varies, but yeah.
Because I mean, whenever you went to Amsterdam, that's how long is it? Do you fly directly into Amsterdam? Or you fly into somewhere like Southern Europe and then travel up?
So in that case, a little flight from here to Chicago and then straight into Amsterdam.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and then I took a 30-minute train ride, a 25-minute train ride to.
Amsterdam's over.
It's kind of north. I'd say North Europe.
Okay.
If I was gonna.
Yeah.
It's west of Germany, northeast of France.
I didn't know Chicago had an international.
Yep. Chicago O'Hare is one of the bigger international airports. Yeah.
Oh, see, I thought New York was where if you.
That's one of the big options. Is whenever I plan flights, you can fly through Newark or JFK in New York, or you can go through Chicago. Those are like the biggest ones for our options here out of St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what, 14-hour flight, 13-hour flight.
Altogether, yeah, it's like 8.5, I think, 9 hours straight out of Chicago there. But you include the travel from here to the Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds up.
Do you get jet lag and something like that?
Sometimes.
Really?
I did pretty good on that trip. It was there only a day. I literally took off here Tuesday afternoon, landed Wednesday morning in Amsterdam, went to the trade show, went to Amsterdam for dinner that night, woke up the next morning, went to the airport, flew home.
Wow.
And then I had a conference for the school board in Kansas City Friday, so I got up and drove to Kansas City and was there a day and a half and then came back. I was pretty tired Sunday.
I would say it because you're traveling alone just takes it out of you.
It can wear you down, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's just constant go, 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 go. And when you get home, I
usually find that the toughest part is when you head back west. So like if you go to Europe, for example, going east for some reason doesn't bother me. But as soon as I come back home, it just throws my body all off. The sleep, the hours, everything just weird. In this case, it didn't. I don't think I was there long enough to acclimate, so it wasn't too bad.
Sure.
But yeah, my wife and I went in back in July. We were there 2 weeks, so coming back was a little bit rougher.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys get? Do you get like the travel points or anything from traveling so much? Do you get travel points like whenever you're ready to travel yourself, just for fun, like a vacation? Do you get that, or does that all go to the business?
No, I get it. So the way it works, because we're a smaller company, and I'm the one who plans most of the travel for everybody in the company, for service technicians, for myself, for anybody. I intentionally make arrangements to where I get a lot of hotel points, I get a lot of mileage points, like United Airlines points, that kind of thing. I encourage our technicians to do the same when they go to a hotel. If you want points, sign up for it, do it. If not, it's in my name. I'm getting the points, and I'm good with that. So
right, because that's a big part of like any type of trip I take.
Oh yeah,
it's always the flight that's there is most expensive, or the hotel. Those are the two really expensive parts. Usually, like Europe, I've always heard Europe's really cheap.
It's not bad. Yeah, I was surprised.
And so like that, and like even I just went to Miami this past year. It wasn't that bad. I mean, sure, it's a little pricey, but it's not that bad down there. It's the flight down there that costs so much, flight there and back, and then the cost of the stay.
Right.
If you want a decent hotel on the water or something like that. And there's lots of places I want to go, and I'm like, oh, I don't mind paying that for the hotel, but holy crap, that's an expensive flight. I think Greece, I want to go to Greece, and the flight to get over there was just so expensive. I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah, sometimes, it's unreal. I'll have the technicians overseas for a job, and something will get changed, and this actually happened earlier this year. I had two technicians in where were they? I think they were in Bahrain, and I was bringing them back, and the date changed one time. And when I looked at the flights, I was able to fly them first class for like a $400 upgrade. It was like just insanely cheap. I'm like, well, yeah. So I did that, and I told the guys, like, do whatever you can to not have to change this again, because I'm not gonna be able to get this good of a deal on your return if you have to change it. Luckily, they were able to get it and fly first class all the way home. It's happened before with Brazil and stuff, but never when I'm the one flying, of course.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes you stumble across a great deal. Other times, like when I went to overseas last week, I actually moved my flight. I originally was going to leave out on Monday, and then I realized I wanted to be home for Halloween with my kids, so I changed it to Tuesday. Well, when I went to change it, if I wanted the exact same flight, it was $8,000 because the only option was first class.
Holy cow.
But I went to the...
$8,000?
Yeah, and I went to another option, and the flight was, $0 change because it was the same fare, and I'm just like, yeah, obviously.
That's insane.
It took me an hour longer to get there is all, but...
Well, that's worth the $8,000. Saving the $8,000.
Absolutely.
Oh my god! I didn't even know it could cost that much.
Yeah, it's because the only option they had left was full on first class, and they weren't offering it cheap, so.
Yeah, apparently not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, who can afford that? That's crazy.
I know. I'm
At
always
that
amazed
point,
when I see all the people in first class riding. I'm like, man, what do you guys do for a living?
yeah. You guys just balling out one time,
No
you saving up
kidding.
forever just to do this, or that's crazy. And I've never even thought about it. And like you said, a lot of times there's deals.
Yeah.
I'm sure they watch for the deals. Now, whenever you're traveling to all these international places, do you have to know multiple languages?
No,
Or how's the language
surprisingly,
barrier?
most places are pretty good with English. In fact, I've spent 2 weeks in India at a time and had no trouble communicating with people, and that's even in a rural area where there's less, education, that kind of thing. And most places I've been to, there's a pretty good English speaking community or population. Now, you do run into situations like when we're scheduling work overseas, we will always put in the quotes or the bids that we require them to supply a translator because, just in case.
Yeah.
So the job I did in the Netherlands back in July, they gave me a translator to work with. He was a fantastic guy, but there were very few people that came by that didn't speak any English. Out of, say, 20 people that came by at some point during the week and a half I was there working, I'd say maybe 2 didn't actually speak English. The rest of them all spoke English to some extent. Now, obviously, there's varying levels of experience with English.
Yeah.
So you'll get a person who has a very harsh accent, and you have to ask them questions over and over again to get to translate what they're saying, to try to figure it out. But for the most part, it's not much of an issue.
And nowadays with phones and stuff,
Yeah,
there
and
is
Google Translate's great. So.
It's very easy, and that's I get that, and I just didn't know like what the barrier was there, but I kind of figured that. But then I have been some places where, like I went down to Mexico, and there's some places down there that they just look at you like, I don't know what the hell you're saying.
Well,
man.
that was, out of all the places I've gone, Mexico is probably the one where I had the hardest time.
Really?
I was in a kind of a rural area of Mexico. There's probably the first time I left the country, actually. And, I was with somebody who spoke great English. But when I was being picked up at the airport, that gentleman wasn't available, so he sent his father to pick me up. His father didn't speak any English.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting there basically just speaking back and forth to each other in our own languages. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll get in the car.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. But when I went to the airport to come home that day, it was a very small airport. 2 airlines were there. And the airline I was at didn't have an English-speaking individual working there. So they actually went and got a woman from another airline to come over and talk to me. She was the only person in the airport who was fluent in English.
Wow.
So that sort of thing has happened before. But, it wasn't bad because I knew enough Spanish to fumble through asking them to speak, if they could speak English and, things like that. I had a book with me. It was long enough ago that I had a translating book, not an app.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to flip through and say things and
That's what I was thinking in my head. I'm like, why didn't you just use your phone to translate?
Yeah,
But that was a ways back.
Pre Google Translate app. So
sure. Well, I've been thinking really heavily on taking just like a Spanish, some type of class, learn Spanish. I think it'd just be really beneficial. I would say that
I've thought about that. I don't think I have the brain capacity to learn a new language at this point in my life. I've tried Spanish. I can learn, I can ask people to speak English in 4 or 5 languages, but I can't say anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much all I understand is, do you know how to speak English? And I can say it in Portuguese, Spanish, French, German, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just trying to learn. It's not so much learning how to say things, it's learning how to comprehend what they're saying to you.
Yeah.
Because when somebody is fluent in another language, they speak it so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And
they use slang sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of my worry too. And I think I would just want to take a class or 2 just so I could be a little, because I've never taken any classes in Spanish. Never any. They had them in high school. I was kind of intimidated in high school to even try to take them. And then in college, I didn't make it far enough in college. They required it, but I just never made it that far in college to actually have to take it. And so now, and I don't care about, I would just go to a local class and just try to learn. That's the biggest thing about going and taking a class right now. I can't do it online. my motivation just wouldn't be there.
Right.
I couldn't just sit down and make myself do it. I'll find some chore or something to work on around here, and I just won't do it.
Yeah, get distracted easy.
Yeah, and so, but if I had a class, if I paid for a class and I had to go and I had to sit with other people, it would motivate me, it would make me focus. And as long as I'm interested in the class, I can do it.
Right.
If I got to go to school, when I was in school, I couldn't pay attention for crap. Because I didn't care about it.
Well, everybody learns differently, and there's the traditional way of learning. Like, I'm going to talk about college for a moment, but so the traditional way to learn college classes is you go for a 16-week course. You go once or twice a week for an hour at a time for 16 weeks. I can't learn that way.
Yeah, me neither.
What I learn today, I'm going to forget in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not how I am. I've got too many things going on. Like you, I'll get distracted and I'll just completely forget what I just learned. Or I'll get uninterested and it's just out of my mind. So I have to do like competency-based education. I'm really big on that because it's based on what you already know and what you can learn in a short period of time and that kind of thing. And it's all self-paced. So I learn very well in that format where I can go in and basically cram for everything and get it done in 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it takes, but you can do it quicker.
Yeah.
I like that educational model, and that might work for better for
I think
somebody
it
like
would.
you. Yeah.
Because when I'm interested in it, I want to grind it.
Right.
I just want to do it as much as possible and really learn and soak it all in. But yeah, whenever I have to do it for short stints, it just doesn't stick.
Yeah.
And I also didn't like in school, I didn't like tests. I thought tests were dumb. And I understand the purpose of them, but it was more like how much can you just memorize?
Yeah.
It's just a memory thing. And then also I hated the ones where they try to, they're like, which one at least fits the situation? They can all
backwards word questions.
Yeah, it's like they can all fit in, and they're like, well, yeah, that one does work, but that's actually the least plausible for this question. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, do you want to know if I know it, or are you just trying to trick me?
Where they have like the double negatives in the questions and things like that. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's like, why do you guys do this? Like, who hurt you to make you want to do this to someone?
Well, there's educators that feel that that's the right way to learn because they think it opens your mind more. I just think it's stupid and complicated myself. But
and I guess I do get that. I understand like it's to see how well you've got to know it, and I did see it at sometimes, but I'm also just like, come on.
Well,
I
think a big part of that is to try to get people to slow down, because you get like me when I'm doing a test, I rush it. I try to get done as quick as I can. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to run out of time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
So I think what they're trying to get people to do in those cases is to get them to slow down. I don't like it. It's not something I do when I draft quizzes and stuff. I avoid those questions because I just think they're mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move over to. I really want to talk about HydroPro and your position.
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested in knowing how you guys focus on reaching out to these customers. Like how do you find the customers?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think if I could, I don't really think I have a personal problem if I can find a customer that's interested. After that, it's easy. You know, the sale is easy, but it's finding someone, and that's not. It's not a very it's a very niche market, like you said, and it's like, how do you find these customers in international waters and all these different places? Like, how do you go about that?
The European market's kind of new for us. We've never really approached that market before, and that's one reason I went to this conference last week, was to sort of get my foot in the door. We have some customers in the Netherlands. We've done some work through partnering companies in that part of the world. We have customers in the UK who are actually at the conference, so I was able to meet up with them and kind of get some information. But for the most part, it's a new market for us. So we're always trying to look for new ways to introduce our technology to these potential clients. We've tried magazines. Obviously, that's somewhat antiquated for the most part, but digital magazines are still out there. Digital articles are still out there. But these conferences are great because it gives you an opportunity to kind of get a consolidated group of people who are your potential customers in one location looking at you, rather than you looking for them and trying to get their attention. They're already there looking at you. So it's a really good opportunity.
How do you go about finding those?
So what we do is we look for specific industry-related events. So there are massive events that go on. There's one in the U.S. called PowerGen, for example. It's power generation trade show. There may be, if I'm not mistaken, 1,000 vendors there, 1,000 booths. Say 5,000 people attend this thing. It's overwhelmingly huge.
Yeah.
Well, what we found is we're so niche that it doesn't make sense to exhibit at an event like that, because out of those 5,000 people that are there, you might have 10 that are potential customers, because they're the ones that actually know what we're doing. Everybody else comes up and asks. We might have 300 people come to the booth and ask questions, but none of them know what we're doing. So we find, in this case, Heat Exchanger World. It's a specific magazine. They have an event in the U.S. They have an event in Europe. Everybody who's there knows what a heat exchanger is. That's the whole point of the event. So everybody there not only knows what it is, they know how they work. They know how they build them. They know how they want to, what they're looking for in regards to that technology. So we may now have 50 people come by the booth is all. But of those 50, 40 of them might be potential customers, that kind of thing. So it's just about increasing your return on investment. Essentially, you're looking for that niche.
So is that where you
market
these conferences or these what do you call these where you set up a booth? What are those?
Trade shows.
Yeah, trade show. Yeah. Is that how you guys find a large portion of
That's
your
a big part of it, yeah. So there's other ways to go about it.
Sure, just
10 years ago, before COVID and all that stuff, you could cold call. You could just walk up to the door and start talking to people. And
seems tough that way, though.
Yeah, it's not financially feasible at the end of the day. And when you consider how far spread out customers are, sometimes geographically, it just doesn't make sense. So over the years, what we've done here in the U.S., we've got a pretty good customer base going. We also don't have that many potential customers when it comes to certain aspects of our technology. So building a new heat exchanger, there's maybe 300 fabricators in the U.S. That's all. Mm-hmm. So our customer base for this product line is 300 people or 300 customers. And we go to those customers and we convince them to use our technology and that kind of thing. But we have other products we offer that go down the line for maintaining heat exchangers, repairing heat exchangers, that kind of thing. Well, there's 10,000 chemical plants in the U.S. So now we have 10,000 potential customers. But again, we're a small company, so we have to then look at service companies and convince them to utilize our technology and go in and do it. We'll support you. We'll send a tech, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the challenge, is just convincing end users on one hand, which is the chemical plants, the Citgos, the oil refineries, that kind of thing, that our technology is what they're looking for to help maintain or repair, extend the life of their equipment. You tell us now who you want to do the work, what service companies you use, and we'll go talk to them now and we'll convince them. So it's an ongoing process constantly.
It definitely seems like a big industry, and I really like it. I love hearing about it, because to me, this is all so new, but it's also so much of where I'm wanting to head in life. And I'm not even not that industry. It's just not an industry that is a passion for me. But I love the system of how it works, and I love hearing about it, because my goal in life is to own a C corp. I want to own a corporation, and so it's learning about those processes in it is so fascinating to me. And it seems like a ton of work, but it's a ton of work if you're one person. Yeah. But you build a team, you build a business that has different teams in it.
Right.
Guys like you that go out and work and help build the system properly. And
what we do in international situations is we'll find a representative, a tooling representative company or a distributor who goes out and they maybe sell or market a lot of other companies' equipment and tooling to these specific people. So for example, in the Middle East, we have a distributor. They sell maybe 12 different companies' products and services. Well, they're motivated to sell ours because it's unique. They're motivated to sell ours because it's a good profit for them, and it works very well. So they go all over the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, all these companies or countries, and they are convincing them to use our technology on our behalf. And then we do everything we can to support them and sell through them. And they make money through the sales, they make money through service, that kind of thing. So it's mutually beneficial in that situation. And of course, when you're talking about the cultural differences, the language barriers, the time zone differences between here and the Middle East or here in Southeast Asia, it makes a huge difference having somebody like that on your side as a distributor or as a rep for your company.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that too, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes absolute sense. It seems like obviously that's what the ones that really succeed, and that's exactly what they're doing. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's pretty cool, and that's the sales and marketing is always something that I've recently just gotten into, and it's something I don't know a lot about. Mm-hmm. And actually, you don't have like any good suggestions for like a marketing book, do you? Like something like because that's something I've really wanted to learn more about is like in the marketing. Just I want to get more proficient in that atmosphere because a big reason why I want to own a corporation is so I can work with these different teams. Like I don't want to own a corporation just so I can make a bunch of money.
Right.
I want to own a corporation because I don't want to do the same thing every day.
Right.
And when I own a small business like I do right now, I love it. I love my customers. I love everything about it. I love the business. I love helping people. But what sucks is I got to go in and I got to do all these like micromanaging things all the time, whether it's cleaning up the gym or it's working with the office manager or it's ordering products or it's sending stuff over to my CPA or I got to do the marketing every single day. And I don't have a big enough business where I can just pay a marketing team or I can pay different teams. Like I don't have just a service team that can go in and fix my equipment because I just can't afford it. It just doesn't make sense as a small business.
Right.
But when you get in a big business, you can do that. And so that's what I want to do. If I want to work with the sales team one day or the marketing team one day or like I even think it's cool because I started my life out working in like factories. As soon as I turned 18, I got a job in a factory and I bounced around some factories while I was going to school. Right. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And, when you're working in these factories or these manufacturing plants, you never get to see the owner of the company. Very rarely does the person that's making the product out on the line ever see the guy that owns it. They see the plant manager, but they never ever get to see the actual owner of the place. And I want to be the one that I'll actually physically walk out there. Like as the owner of this corporation, I want to be able to walk out there and stand on the line and work with them some days. Like I think that just sounds fun to me, and
I think it makes a big difference.
Freedom
on
to do what I want.
Customer or employee retention as well. If they see the highest people there working alongside them, helping them, even their supervisors, their managers, the plant manager, seeing them on the floor helping, not just supervising, makes a big difference.
Yeah, because even like the plant manager, he might be, head honcho of the plant, but at the end of the day, he's not top dog, and he even might get in his head where, the guy that owns this corporation, he's never around.
Right.
He lives in a different state or maybe even a different country. He don't care about us.
Well, I worked at UPS for 5.5 years, and we had that kind of mindset. If we saw the plant manager walk through, it was like, ooh, it was a big deal. And that was just the plant manager in a small UPS center. If we saw the regional manager from St. Louis come into town, it was like the president was coming to town. Everybody was freaking out.
Yeah.
So by the time I left there, we had gotten more used to it. They had started becoming more visible and stuff like that. But it was just that mindset, like, we're just peons that work on the belt, and all of a sudden this big boss is coming to town. It was a big deal.
Yeah, they don't care about us.
I got into management and I started helping out with making sure the plant manager knew to walk through the belt a little more and talk to people, and it made a big difference, I think, as far as from when I was there at least. I don't know if it's changed since then. It's been a long time, but there's a lot of companies though that I go to that you see the CEO walk through and talk to people and stuff, and it makes a huge difference on like how happy those employees are because they know that they're valued more.
Yeah. I think it just would be so cool, and that's why you need that big business to where you can leave it up to the CEO to manage and run and oversee all like the people at the top, making sure it's being ran right, and then you can get the freedom to be able to go down and like I'd love just go and like hang out for a week and work on a line with someone or whatever whatever the business is and just show like, hey, I'm no better than you guys, and like I want to be able to tell these guys like, hey, I was in your shoes at one time too.
Right.
That's a big motivation to why I do a lot of things is at one time in my life, I didn't think I could have basically anything. I remember thinking a $10,000 vehicle was out of my price range at one time.
Right.
And so now I want to be able to just like show people, I'm like, if you really want to go for it, you can go for it and you can achieve it. And that's why I keep setting higher and higher goals. And I'm just like a goal setter. Like I enjoy chasing goals and like having things to go after because I can't do the same thing for the rest of my life.
No, I'm the same way. I have to be busy all the time, crazy like that. But I totally get that. And then when it comes to, like how to treat people and such, you mentioned like having the boss on the line with you and stuff. I find that if you treat everybody with the same level of respect, the same level of kindness, etc., it makes a big difference. And it's actually helped me several times over the years. For example, when I was on that job in the Netherlands back in July, I met several people from the office. I didn't know who was who. They came to me and were asking me questions, and I was just talking to them like they were the guy helping me on the job, just being kind and friendly and talking to them. Well, at one point, the guy that came to talk to me, we were having a nice conversation. It turned out he was the plant manager. I had no idea. I showed him how the technology works, all that stuff. Well, then a woman came through, same thing. We had a great conversation. I explained to her how everything worked, how the progress was going. We had a meeting with several people in an office. It turns out she's above the plant manager. She's like the president of the company or something. It was just, I had no idea. And the people I worked with pointed out that one reason they were so happy at this job, at this plant, was because those people did come out all the time. And they would come out on the line. They would ask how things are going. They would visit. They weren't like just pushing numbers. They weren't just looking for results. I mean, granted, they weren't actually helping either, but it's a different situation in a chemical plant.
I think that's helping.
But yeah, they were out there like communicating with them and talking to them like they were coworkers, not subordinates. It makes a big difference. So
yeah, I remember. I can tell you a lot of jobs because I've had a lot of different jobs. Growing up, I was just going job to job to job, trying to figure out who the hell I was.
Yeah.
Just a young, confused boy. And I left a
You'll
lot.
Figure it out someday.
Yeah. I'm still working on it, but a little better than what I once was. But yeah, I remember I left a lot of places because of bad bosses.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a boss and a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had some bosses that I was severely underpaid. And so on top of that, not only was I underpaid, but they treated me like crap.
Yeah.
Like just belittled me, just talked to me terribly. And it's like, that was the only reason I left.
Yep.
I would have stayed for the pay because I was trying to just build up a skill set, or I was grinding for something in my life, or I was just like trying to earn some money and do some things.
But you didn't have the motivation from a good leader.
Yeah. I was just being treated like such bad crap. And I'm like, I got to get out of this position. Like I was just miserable. I was very unhappy. And there's a lot of positions where I would have stayed if they would have just paid me more money too.
Right.
I think a lot of people would just sleep on that. The fact of, if they just get stingy and greedy, and then they just want to keep it in their pocket. And it's like, no, if you have good employees, you need to treat them good.
Right.
And you can treat them good by paying them good. You can treat them good by giving them bonuses. You can treat them good by just learning their name and just asking them how their weekend was and actually genuinely caring.
Yeah.
And just like figuring out who they
difference.
are. Yeah. And that's something that I definitely want to, if I ever get to a corporation level, I want to like make sure that that's like part of it, just trickles down through the system and make sure that it's from the very top to the very bottom. Just a plant manager even spreads that out to even the line leaders of like a line that's developing, like a production line, like that everyone gets that way. And if there is someone that's on the, like in my business, that's not treating people good, I want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
That's something that I just really do not value at all.
No, and it's an employee happiness thing, I could say. I'm sure there's a better way to word that, but yeah, keeping employees comfortable, happy, that kind of thing is a really big issue. Mm-hmm. And making sure that, because that's how you retain good employees, is making sure they feel valued all the time and that they're happy. And so, yeah, because we work on that in the school district. Granted, I'm on the board, I'm not in administration or anything, but we talk about that. We talk about ways to make sure that administrators are, going around and being friendly and they're not just bosses sitting in an office yelling at people. They're on the ground. They're helping people. They're walking around and greeting students even and stuff like that. And we've noticed a huge uptick in employee retention over the past few years by encouraging administrators to be that way. So same thing with business. It's essentially a public school is a business. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about some travel stories.
Oh yeah.
Because you get to travel all the time. You've been traveling for years. What's your favorite place to travel? Is there any of them that, or is it always all business? Surely you take some time when you travel these places to actually explore.
I do what I can to explore and enjoy myself when I travel. I've had some interesting things happen for sure, but this trip to Europe over the summer, that was a lot of fun because it's the first time I got to take my wife with me. So it was...
In 16 years, that was the first time.
Yeah, well, internationally, yes. So it was kind of cool because what we did was we flew out on the 4th of July, and we spent the end of the 4th of July overseas, which it's the second time I've been out of the country on the 4th of July. But
is that a big deal?
It's just one of those weird things, because we're Americans. 4th of July, you celebrate the freedom, the all that stuff that goes with the American Revolutionary War and everything. So it's just kind of odd, I guess. It feels weird being outside of the country during that time.
Because it's not even recognized.
Yeah, because nobody else really... I mean, I say nobody else recognizes it, but everybody else does. They know what's going on. They know it's a big deal, because America is a big deal everywhere else. But so we flew to Brussels, and again, when you fly east, you basically lose a day. I'm assuming you know that. But so we left Monday afternoon, we arrived Tuesday morning. Well, you don't land somewhere in a foreign country in the morning and say, oh, I'm just going to go to the hotel and go to sleep. No, you go explore. So we spent the whole day exploring. And at this point, we've been up for, 36 hours, it seemed like. And so we spent the whole day exploring Brussels, eating the great food, seeing the architecture, all that stuff. Well, the next morning, the 6th, was...
Where's that at in Europe?
Okay, so if you look at Europe, it's on the far west, just north of France.
Okay.
Brussels is the middle of Belgium, which is a pretty decent-sized country just north of France. And they speak French mostly, but in Brussels, they speak very good English. Everybody speaks English. It's great. We went to the palace, saw where the king lives, all this stuff. And we woke up the next morning, and my wife had said, how far are we from France? Because I wouldn't mind saying I went to France, Well, me being a cyclist, I look, and Lille, France, Lille, is an hour and a half from Brussels. And it just so happened that day, July 6th, was when they were starting stage 5 of the Tour de France in Lille, France. So we drove... Did
you guys plan that out?
Sort of. I hadn't planned on visiting the tour or anything like that, but when I saw that it was only an hour and a half away and it was that next, I'm like, well, let's make this happen. So we drove down there and got to watch the start of stage 5, which is amazing. It's just unreal how many people are there and how electric the atmosphere is and all that. And then, so we got to see that, and I videoed it and everything. We took off, and me being a history nut, I had passed what I thought was a castle. I could see something that looked like a castle off the side of the road. So when we were driving back on, I'm like, oh, there it is, we're stopping. So we hit this community, and we end up in this downtown area, beautiful cobbled streets, all that stuff, and it's a 12th century church, big, gigantic, unfathomably huge church. And so we're walking around taking pictures of this thing. It's just unreal. We get back in the car and we drive, because the next day I was going to start work in the Netherlands, in the southern part of the Netherlands, in an area where if you go 15 minutes west, you're in Belgium, 15 minutes east, you're in Germany. So we're like, let's just drive to Aachen, Germany first, So in one day, in 4 hours, we hit 4 countries. It was just really cool being able to do that. And, and then we stayed in the Netherlands.
Because in Europe, countries are basically states.
Yeah, you don't hit border crossings or anything. Our rental car, it actually had, every time we crossed the border, it would pop up something saying, hey, you're now in this country. Here's some laws to pay attention to, like traffic laws, of course. And then you hit okay and keep driving. And that was a border crossing, So yeah, they treat them like they're states basically.
Yeah.
And they can't fathom how big America is. Whenever I was talking to these guys, you know, they were like, "Well, how big is Missouri?" And I'm like, "Well, if I get in the car and drive for 4 hours, I'll be in Kansas City." And they're like, "And that's still in Missouri?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "We could be 2 countries over."
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just they can't really fathom that kind of driving distances and stuff. But that was a really cool trip. And then we worked in the Netherlands for a few days, and I flew over to England for some meetings. And I knew I had planned this. I was like, I'm going to take a couple nights in Scotland. So my wife and I, after my meetings that morning, we got on a train and rode to Edinburgh, Scotland, and we stayed there for 2 nights. And that was the most unbelievable place I've ever been. It's like being in a fairy tale. It's just so amazing because everything is old. Like the newest freaking buildings were from the 15th century. It was just unreal.
Whoa.
And it was
Scotland is where at in Europe? North, east, southwest?
So the United Kingdom.
I'm trying to, when you tell me these different places in Europe, because I've never been,
right.
I just know that I've looked at it on the map and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go here and here and here.
Well, Europe is part of the mainland, and then England, Scotland are part of the United Kingdom, so they're across the water a little bit. So we had to fly over there or take the channel, but we flew over. And then, of course, Ireland's to the west of that. So we got to go to England and Scotland, which, like I said, it was amazing.
So is it northeast?
It'd be northwest.
Northwest.
Yeah,
okay.
Of the rest of Europe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool. The weirdest part, though, is, get this, you go to Europe, and all the signs are in English. You drive on the correct side of the road. It's just people speak really clear English when they speak English. You go to England, and they talk funny, and you drive on the wrong side of the road. You go to Scotland, their English is even worse. But it was just beautiful. We loved it. We went back home and told the kids we were moving to Scotland. Just
really
telling them we just loved it that much. We're gonna go and stay there or something. Kids freaked out. No, we don't want to move. But
yeah.
But no, that was a lot of fun. So out of my favorite places to be, I would say right now I'd probably be Europe, Scotland, that kind of thing.
Everyone that's gone to Europe, they all love it.
Yeah. Now I liked India a lot because it's just different, but it's the food's hard to take for that long of a period of time and that kind of thing. I wasn't thrilled with that. I had some of the more interesting things happen to me there.
Dangerous?
Well, their security is really high to go into facilities. So there was one day where we were going to an oil refinery. I was detained by local police for a brief period of time, mostly just security background checks and stuff like that, and questioning why I was there, And then we leave the police station and we end up playing cricket in the driveway in the parking lot with some local kids. So just weird stuff like that,
Yeah.
And then I go to the plant, and again I was detained for I think 2 hours, but this time by the Indian military, again for security reasons, being checked out, all that stuff. Well, then I go into a room and I'm sitting there with I think it was 32 engineers doing a presentation to them, and then we get done with that, and I go through and I'm eating in the cafeteria with all their workers. It's just really neat, interesting stuff that's happened to me like that. And on that same trip, a couple days before that, the gentleman I was with, we worked in an oil refinery for about a week and a half. And when we were leaving, they started taking pictures of themselves in front of the sign and with me in front of the sign and stuff. And apparently it's because it's a military government-ran facility, you're not allowed to do that. So they ended up getting in trouble and getting their phones confiscated for a while and all that stuff. So fun stuff like that tends to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of what scares me about traveling to some places like that, because there's just things you don't know about.
Right.
And you really need, if you've never been there, you almost need some type of travel guide or somebody that can help you out.
Somebody experienced, yeah.
Somebody experienced that they know the areas, especially if you're going on just a vacation. You're going to go for a week or two, and you want to actually travel around and see stuff, because and it doesn't matter where you go in the world. There's dangerous places. There's safe places and dangerous places.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you could really, if you don't know there, you could really end up in some bad situations.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the most dangerous place, you think? You said you went to Abu Dhabi, Dubai?
Yeah, I've been to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Honestly, those are 2 of the safest places I've ever felt.
Really?
I would get up in the
morning.
morning.
Dubai is in Abu Dhabi, or are they 2 separate things?
It's a country called the United Arab Emirates, and what it was is there was multiple countries that combined into one, essentially. So when you go from Dubai, which is essentially a country, it's also a city, to make it confusing. You go over to Abu Dhabi, it's a neighboring country / they have a major city called
How
Abu
far
Dhabi.
apart?
It was like an hour drive, I think.
Not far
Hour
at
and a
all.
half, not far, yeah. And the highway system's great. Really, really nicely taken care of. There's another country or two attached to it. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but one right outside of Dubai that starts with an S and so on. But yeah, those places I felt very comfortable. I would get up in my hotel in Abu Dhabi, and I would go downstairs and I would walk 4 or 5 blocks over to the Starbucks, and just women in burqas would wave at me, and I mean, they'd be pushing strollers with kids, and it was just, I felt completely safe there.
Cool.
And then
Definitely a place, my bucket list place.
oh, it's beautiful too. The buildings are amazing. Dubai's got the tallest tower in the world.
Richest city in the world, right?
Yep, yeah. The Burj Khalifa, it's just obscenely large. It hurt my neck looking at it. It was awesome.
Whoa.
And it's attached, essentially, to the world's largest shopping mall. So you get to see both at the same time. Just really cool stuff like that. It's just an amazing city.
It's the wealth come from all these
Oil.
guys at oil.
Yeah.
It's all these oil guys that they're stupid rich.
Oh, yeah.
But I also heard they get a lot. They have a lot of money, but they also hire basically almost like slaves. I heard, is there like slums outside of Dubai?
I didn't
Did you see
see
that?
this. I didn't see anything like that. They're really strict on how they do immigration. So most of the people that work there are not local. I'd say probably like 80%, if I was going to guess, of the people that are there are actually from other countries like India, Pakistan. They're there on visas, work visas.
Yeah.
And the way they kind of maintain, I guess, safety is nobody's able to get, citizenship. So every year these individuals have to leave for like a week or so. I think it's a week, and reapply for their visas and get reissued and come back. So if you get in trouble for anything, like any kind of legal trouble, they just boot you. You're not allowed back. So it kind of keeps people in line for the most part. Obviously, there's crime.
But I heard these people aren't staying in Dubai.
Oh, it's amazing. And when you've been to India and then you go to Dubai, you understand why they want to stay there.
But I heard that the people that are on visas aren't staying in Dubai. I heard they're staying in like some
nearby, yeah.
Yeah, outside town, like not great living quarters kind of thing.
It's very possible, yeah. I didn't see anything like that, but the individuals I was there with, they lived
because they don't have labor laws there, do they?
They do.
They do have some type of like labor laws. I just kind of figured they just do whatever they want.
No, I'm sure there's stuff like that going on that's kind of sketchy, but I didn't see any of it. So
sure.
But no, it was one of the more beautiful places, really impressive places.
Supercars all over the place, right?
Oh yeah,
just all over the place.
And it's almost odd to see like American cars drive around, because when you go to India, you don't see anything like that. All the cars are small and they're kind of goofy shaped, and they're just smaller cars, and tons of scooters and motorcycles, things like that. Then you go to Dubai, and all of a sudden you're Dodge Rams driving by, and souped up Chevy pickups and Camaros and all that, and it's just like, this is weird.
I do a lot. I've just watched it online, like videos and stuff like that. I just fell into like Dubai and like how cool it is of a city.
Yeah.
And they say it's the richest city in the world, and I just heard that it's like Lamborghinis and Porsches and Maseratis and Bugattis and stuff just driving around like normal.
Yep.
But I also heard that they're very strict on it too. I heard that like basically they're very strict on if you have a payment on a car and you miss like one payment. I heard they're like,
that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
It's not pleasant. I don't know for sure. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I heard it's a pretty bad punishment. So I heard there's actually apparently this exists there, but apparently there's a supercar graveyard outside of Dubai where basically if you can't pay for the car,
they come and take it.
Well, and they do have to come and take it, and they find it. That's when you get in trouble. But if they can't find it, you just basically say it got stolen. Or I honestly don't know how it works out, but apparently they just take these cars out, like just drive them super far out into the desert and just dump them. And it's just a supercar graveyard where it's just like all these Lambos and Maseratis and just random supercars that people couldn't afford, so they just dump them out in the desert.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And come back so they don't get like whatever the punishment is for it. So I was like, that's kind of cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, just to see a bunch of rotting supercars out in the middle of the desert. And I could believe it too, just if it's actually as rich as they really say it is.
Right.
I seen that they had, apparently they're trying to develop, it's going to be like it's supposed to be all mirrored, and it's supposed to be like this like living city where it's like super thin.
Oh, I
like
saw that.
Yeah, it's like
In Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Is that where it's at?
Yeah.
It's this long rectangle.
Yeah,
style
I
building.
forget what they called it, but yeah, it's basically looks like almost like a wall, and it's mirrored on one side. It's a city inside.
Yeah.
I did see that. I believe that's Saudi Arabia. That's another country that's very wealthy for oil and such, but the living situation is very different there. They don't have the obscenely rich cities, that kind of thing that are visited, and they're a lot more strict on their religious laws. So whereas when I was in Dubai, I was staying very close. I could look out the window and see a mosque. So at certain times of day, there's the mosque, the religious voice comes over and they're doing their prayers and stuff. But I was there a week, and I think I saw twice where somebody had stopped to pray on the side of the road or anything like that. It's very, very rare. Mm-hmm. I was walking to a mall from my hotel, and people are just walking along during the prayers.
They don't stop.
In Saudi Arabia, everything stops, from what I understand. I haven't been there yet, but from what I understand, everybody just stops at those prayer times and they pray, because it's very strict. You're not allowed to be out after certain hours, that kind of thing. So I understand that the different Middle Eastern countries definitely practice things differently, and I believe Saudi Arabia, the entire country is dry, so there's no alcohol in the whole country.
Doesn't sound like my kind of country.
So we've had people that I've talked to that were there, and they would essentially bus or drive over to I think it's Bahrain nearby, which is just a small country off the corner of it, where alcohol is legal, mm-hmm. and they would go there to consume alcohol, and then they'd head back, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So
yeah, that makes sense. It's no different than just dry counties somewhere in the United States.
And then in India, most religions are dry, so alcohol is not common, I'll say, but you could still go to a local store and find beer, and restaurants would serve it sometimes. Hotels had it, that kind of thing, but it was very uncommon to see it. Most places didn't have it out.
There wasn't a bar or something you could just go to?
No, there's no bars that I saw at all.
It's all just in private drinking, kind of thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've been in this. We're in a little over an hour. Do you want to wrap it up, or you want to talk about anything else? Is there something with Bourbon Cyclery you want to talk about still? We didn't touch much on your class that you teach. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so over the summer I taught marketing. It was the first class I've taught for Columbia College. So it's just principles of marketing. And I'm looking at teaching some other ones like global marketing and business communications, things like that.
It's an online class?
Yeah, well, yes and no. As you are aware, the world's changing. So I technically work for the Raleigh campus. So I could teach from the classroom and ask students to come there, but we teach synchronously, so people all over the country could attend the class. So at this particular class, I had students in Wisconsin. I had students in California and Colorado. So obviously I was teaching them over the internet. And in that case, we had one student who was local, and he said he would attend from home. So I just taught from Bourbon Cyclery. I've got an office there with a camera and mic and everything set up. So the downside to that is it's a 4-hour class. So I'm standing there for 4 hours talking to a computer.
Yeah.
and hoping they're interacting with me in some way. But
is there a chat and stuff? Can you chat?
Yeah, it's Zoom, so there's a chat, and they can chime in and talk back and things like that, and respond to questions, and I could see them if they have the cameras on, that sort of thing. But one of the ways I teach is I implement a lot of actual real life experience, because like you mentioned earlier, memorization sucks. Just simply memorizing concepts from a book is not always the easiest way to learn something. Well, the text does a really good job in some cases of tying it into reality, like a real world example. But then I can take that a step further and use a real world example from my own 20 plus years experience in business and tie that into something maybe that I'm doing at HydroPro, maybe that I'm doing at Bourbon Cyclery, maybe that one of my customers is doing, and really tie that together and give them examples a lot more often. I think it makes it more relatable for students. I think that because that's how I learn.
Yeah.
So being able to make it more real, rather than just a concept is sometimes more valuable.
I feel like marketing's one, I mean, I think this is with almost all learning, but I think marketing's one that, and I don't know, I'm very new into the whole marketing side of business, but I feel like there's probably a lot to learn. Like I could probably learn a ton. That's why I asked you if you knew of like any good books that I could just sit down and just like in my evenings read, or maybe listen to an audiobook where somebody could, they have some like stuff that's worked over years, and like there's like just some things in business that just guaranteed to work, like advertising.
Right.
There's like TV ads are great, or social media ads are great. That's a no-brainer.
Right.
But there's so many things that I just feel like I could really improve on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff out there. Like when I first got into it, I was reading a lot of Zig Ziglar books, and I was reading things by Tony Robbins and things like that. Honestly, most of it's motivational, and when it comes down to actually what works in your industry, it is going to vary between industries. So what I do at Bourbon Cyclery is completely different than what I do at HydroPro, because HydroPro is B2B. It's all business to business. So our consumer base, or our customer base, is completely different than what Bourbon Cyclery's customer base is, where it's all business to consumer. So whereas that can benefit from social media marketing and having an interactive website and so on, the HydroPro side is a little different. We don't want to be in everybody's eye, because we get calls for the dumbest things that have nothing to do with us. We get called all the time for hydroblasting and pressure washing and house cleaning, and so we don't do that. So we have to really focus on who we market to at that company. Whereas Bourbon Cyclery, we just spread it like wildfire, tell everybody, because chances are we can help somebody.
Right, just make it a brand that's recognizable.
Exactly. So how you approach things is going to vary a lot between different industries. And then then of course you've got to find your focus, your goal, your vision for your company, that kind of thing, and tie it all together. Marketing is one of those odd things, because most people, I think, see marketing and they think advertising, because that's the most in-your-face version of marketing. But it's so all-encompassing of almost everything to do with business that I'm actually teaching in the course, teaching about writing a company's mission, writing a company's vision, establishing those basics, foundations of a business, like from when you're making your first original business plan, that kind of thing. It's all tied to your marketing plan. And
how would you define, in your own words, how would you define marketing?
In my own words?
Yeah, in your own words, because you're exactly right. When you're saying that, when you think marketing, you think advertising. You think that's all marketing is, but you're totally right. It's way more than just throwing a billboard up or throwing an ad up on Facebook.
Well, I think marketing is finding the needs of your customers and then showing them how you can meet those needs. I think that's kind of the basis of it. So for the bike shop, for example, we are offering bicycles, outdoor gear, that kind of thing. So we're finding customers who have a need or a desire to ride a bike for one reason or another, and we're showing them how we're the best option for that. Whereas with HydroPro, we're finding customers who have a need to build or repair or maintain a heat exchanger, and we're showing them how we're the best company to make that happen. So,
but it's the whole encompassed of how, not only that you guys have what they need, but you guys are also, that's just so vague when you say what they need, because you show them that the qualities in your business, that you guys have been in business for a long time, and that you guys have the manpower to be able to fix this stuff.
Exactly.
Teach these people.
Everything.
Yeah. Provide them the round line product, so that it's not something that's not always out of stock. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to learn so much more about it, because I know that's going to be, I know it's so huge. And the more I work on advertising, the more I work on marketing and just business development, I realize I'm like, man, this is so huge.
Yeah,
This is so important.
It's difficult to teach principles of marketing is one of the harder classes I think to teach because you're not focused on one area. If you're focusing on advertising, that's great. Mm-hmm. You could spend 8 weeks, no problem, talking about advertising and different methods, social media, print, everything, how you determine who to market to, all that stuff. But when you're talking about all of it, it's very difficult to squeeze into 8 weeks because there's such a large aspect of it. But essentially, to me, the definition of marketing is just that. It's
ever growing.
Finding
too,
your customer's need and communicating how you meet that need.
Because it's also working with the way times change too.
Right.
Because marketing's what it once was in the 60s.
It not only evolves based
now.
on technology and time and everything else, but also culturally is very different. If you look at how some companies market here in the U.S. and then you go to India, they market completely differently, or the Middle East because of religious aspects. Cultural aspects. They'll market entirely different. They might change the product name altogether. Even when I go to Canada, I've noticed that they relabel bags. They label things differently. They'll have different wording on them, that sort of thing, for bags of chips even. I mean... Sure,
yeah. Like environmental things, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
They market it totally different for different countries for that kind of stuff. Because there's other countries that are much more strict.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with food products.
Yeah.
We just have all these crazy... I just started drinking... almond milk.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it says almond milk, but if you read the back of it, it's just all gums.
Yeah.
If you get the stuff from Walmart at least.
Yeah.
But you gotta go to a Trader Joe's or something like that to get real almond milk where it's water and almonds.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so crazy that I don't know. There's an app called Yuka, and it's just the picture on the app is just like a carrot, and you can scan the product, any product you want, and it'll break down the product, and it'll also give you a rating on how good of a food it is. And it'll tell you can click on it and it'll break down, tell you what products are in it and why they're unsafe and if maybe they're cancerous or something like that.
I see. Maybe nutritional information.
Yeah. So, and I don't, it's kind of inconvenient just to use it all the time, but it is interesting to use every now and then just to have on your phone, just be able to snap a picture of the barcode and be like, oh, this isn't as healthy as you think it is.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that I thought were pretty healthy and it's it was... it said it was pretty unhealthy. I'm like, oh.
Well, I saw a video, the owner or the founder of Hint Water. I don't know if you've seen that brand before. She was talking about how she wanted a healthy alternative to water that tasted better. So she started looking at vitamin water and then realized that it's not very healthy, that it's full of all kinds of stuff. So when you look at a bottle of Hint water, it's literally water that's been infused with fruit and some vitamins added, and that's it.
Really?
Whereas if you go to vitamin water, which you think is going to be vitamins and water.
Yeah.
It's just all kinds of additives.
Just another crap product.
Yeah, it's not very healthy at the end of the day. And it doesn't taste like water anymore. It just tastes like juice. So
yeah, that's exactly what it tastes like
too. Was getting at, So
have you seen that new water that's free water? It's like a free water.
I saw an advertisement for that. Yeah.
I don't know if they've launched it or not yet. I've seen a few different TikToks
Something
and just
to do
ads.
With advertisers.
I think the water's free, but it's the bottle or the cans covered in different advertisements.
Right.
Which is pretty crazy to think that they get paid that much just from advertising on their bottles
to be able to
give it out.
Give it out, yeah,
for free because there's so much to it.
I did see that. I don't remember what brand or where I saw it, but social media somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just called free water or what it's called.
Right.
But yeah, that's something to look out for.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool to see just people coming up with innovative ideas like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And the power of just having people pay ads on stuff.
Well, that
that's so
me,
cool. That's how people make so much money on social media, on YouTube and TikTok.
There's a book out there that I do recommend you read. It's called Steal Like an Artist.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read that one yet.
No.
It's a very short book, quick read.
I love it.
But
that's what I want.
Actually reminded me what you just said because it's not a new idea. How many other things have used essentially the same thing? Restaurants do that with their menus where they have advertisers pay for everything. Local schools do it with their calendars for their sports, things like that. So it's not a new idea. And the whole concept behind the Steal Like an Artist is it starts out by saying that there's been no new ideas for hundreds of years, that every single idea is a regurgitation or a refabrication of an existing idea, an existing thought. And that the idea is to find a way to take an existing idea, concept, whatever, and reimagine it. into something that works for the new technology, the new day and age, that kind of thing. So I think it'd be a great book for you to read.
I'll definitely pick that one
highly
up,
recommend
especially
that
if it's a shorter read.
It's a short read, yeah.
And I actually believe in that more than I believe in starting a company from the ground up.
Oh, yeah.
It's so hard to like, not only, I mean, if you're coming up with a brand new product, especially, it's one thing if you're like me with the gym, if I wanted to just buy a building, start a new gym, ground up, 0 employees, that's still going to be tough. But it's not going to be nearly as tough if you come up with a brand new product that nobody's ever used before, have to get it made, developed, patented, and then start marketing it.
Convince the world that it's
they
something
need
they
it.
need.
Yeah, that is an incredibly hard business to start, and you're much better off maybe finding someone that already did all those steps and then buy in after they've got some customers flowing, because that's where the real hard work is.
Right.
I mean, it's all hard work, but I tried that Wilson Fitness Supply for a while, and it was ground up, and it was just trying to convince gyms that to sell this product I was selling in my gym, to sell it there so I could cut costs. That's basically all I was doing, and I was going to make a little money off the back end, the tail end of it all. I was going to take a percent, but it was so hard because it was just like this new idea, and it was basically no different than someone bringing a soda machine in and stocking products in a soda machine, and then I get a cut off of it.
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to do with these supplements, but a bigger profit margin, or bigger, it was a bigger profit margin, because I have some tubs of protein that are MSRP for $80.
Right.
So there's a little more of a market on it than a $2.50 monster can.
Right.
But even then, it was super hard for me to convince people to do it, because it was just something they never did before, and they never had dealt with it before, and most people aren't willing to just take a chance on something
new. Yeah.
Yeah, it's anything new is very fearful for a lot of people. It's out of their
in that
comfort
marketing
zone.
class, one thing, kind of our final project that the students do is they have to come up with a new idea, new concept, new business, something along those lines, and then explain how they're going to market it. And I make sure they know that they can take an existing product and alter it in some way, improve on it. And, it's all theoretical, of course. And sometimes, you get some really great ideas. And I think that trying to get people outside of their comfort zone to think of things like that, it's kind of what you're talking about, trying to find some new way to improve the world, whether it's through an existing product and you altered it, or coming up with something that you think that should be out there that isn't,
Mm-hmm.
And we had some great ideas. Like this last class, a woman, she brought up an idea for when you go to a restaurant. She said that she had some bad experiences with poor waiters or waitresses not taking very good care, or they'd be in the middle of a conversation, they come up and interrupt her and things like that. So she came up with a call system very similar to what you see on an airplane, where you can hit the button and ask for the waiter or waitress. She said that you could choose when you get there whether you want like constant service, occasional service, whatever. So the light above the table would be yellow if they want occasional service, or green if they want constantly interrupted, and red if they're like, we don't want to bug you, we don't want you unless we wave at you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's buttons you could ask for new drinks and things, so they're not constantly coming up and asking you for things. And I'm like, man, that's ingenious for like introverted people who don't want constantly, because how many times you go to a restaurant and somebody's sitting there reading a book or having a conversation with someone, and the waiter just comes up and interrupts them, and they lose track of their conversation. She pointed all that out, and I'm like, well, that's actually a really intelligent idea.
Yeah,
it should be out there.
I think of Applebee's when I think of that. Applebee's have the tablets there.
Yeah.
And I think that could really be incorporated into the tablet
Easily.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like you said, the introverts versus extroverts, there might be a waitress that is a go-getter, ambitious, and she's going back and forth to this table a bunch of times, and, this person might be like, why does this lady keep coming over?
You're driving me nuts.
Yeah, you're driving me nuts. So to have that thing where they can just instantly sit down, and it's just prompted.
Yeah.
How would you like your service?
Yeah, exactly.
Today? And you can just choose slow, medium, high.
Exactly.
And however they describe it.
Or if you need a drink, you tap it and it notifies her that you need a drink. Or,
yeah.
Whatever. Because how often do you go and eat and you're like, man, I'm sitting here with an empty cup and can't
I just did it this past weekend.
And and you don't want to be rude necessarily and like wave at him or anything, but he's busy. You may not get his attention. So we actually had when we were at an Asian
or like a
restaurant.
pause. You were just like if you want. I'm thinking about. I just went on a date with a girl a couple months ago,
right?
And we were sitting at the table, first date, and we had a lot to talk about. And And this lady kept coming over, and we had finished our food, but we were just talking. We were just sitting there chatting. And she's like, "Can I get you guys anything else? Would you guys like a ticket? Would you guys like boxes?" And we're like, we're just like, "Hey, we're just talking. Yeah. If you give us some time, it'd be nice if you could just hit like a pause. Like, we don't need any service right now." And then like you can just make requests, but you can also tell them, just pause it for now. Like, we don't need your help yet. And then like when you're ready, and I think it would also free up time for the waitresses to be like, "Okay, this table's paused. They don't need me." Right. So you have like your hub you can go back to and check and be like, "Okay, there's still paused." And you can focus on these other tables that might need more work instead of just having to like blindly check in. Right. So I think that's a great idea.
And I know the kiosk things where you can pay are great. And then we actually were at an Asian restaurant in Edinburgh, and there was a QR code on the mat. Like, there was pictures of food and then a QR code where you scan it and it gives you your full menu, and then you can pay from there and everything. It was kind of cool. You could like request drinks and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is a really neat system, because when you did stuff on there, it communicated with the waiter station, whatever you want to call it, to let them know that, hey, table X needs drinks, or table X ordered this appetizer or this dessert or whatever. So the waiters and waitresses very rarely came to the table. And when they did, they were very helpful and friendly, but it wasn't like you had these big fumbling menus and you weren't constantly waving at somebody to get their attention. It was kind of cool. Yeah. So it's kind of almost what she's come up with in this class. But
and it eliminates the need for the tablet. Right, exactly. You got the QR code. Now everybody has smartphones. Yeah, exactly. Throw it on there. Yep. So yeah, that is a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I had an idea here recently, because I've been starting to do like just digital ad space in my gym, where I have just TVs set up and people can put their advertising in the background. And the way I look at it is, people are in the gym, they're you got 2 minutes between sets anyway. Right. You're sitting there just like looking around, maybe listening to music, but you're not talking. You just in your headphones. Right. And so if I put a TV on every wall just with ads running on it, it's great. It's great advertisement for someone who wants to get their business out to customers.
Absolutely.
And what I do is I just get a TV and I put the advertising on a flash drive and I put it in there, and it's on shuffle, and you can choose like the speed and everything like that. And that's how I do it. But I was thinking, I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if I could have a program that it's just an app that you can download on the TV, because every TV is basically smart TVs now. Right. And you download the program, and say I could be sitting at my computer here at my house, my office, and I could upload 10 different pictures to it, and it would automatically transfer it to the TVs. Right. And you could basically make it to where and you could schedule it where, like my gym, if you join my gym, I can set you up to where if you want to do month to month, 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever type of gym membership you want, it runs for that amount of time. And so I thought, what if you could set up a program like that where if you wanted to pay for advertising, I'm like, okay, would you like month to month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, however long period, and I can automatically set it up to where it sends you invoices every month, it bills you every month, it runs it for that ad time, and then whenever it's done, it just automatically takes the ad off. Right. It's just a whole program where you can just throw pictures in, throw the ads in, run the space, run a certain amount of times, and then it also digitally, like a Google Drive, how I can put something on a Google Drive and I can go to any computer in the world with my phone and pull it up. There it is, yeah. And I was just like, man, why is there I wonder if there probably is an app like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably something like that I don't know what it would be, but I know there's like a calendar app that's similar to that, where you can set up a calendar that's digital that will scroll through images, scroll through advertisements, and I could, I have one set up at HydroPro. I could go online and change it, and then the TV would change to a different calendar, or it'd update the calendar, it'd change to the weather or something, stuff like that. But it's not quite what you're talking about. But I know the technology's there. I wonder if somebody's created exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, because I thought about, I'm like, well, other than I can get paid through, people paying me for advertising on it, but how could, as the app developer, not the app owner, like if I have the app and I'm using the app, people can pay me for the advertising, so that's how I make my money there. But as an app developer, how do you make money? I was like, well, what if you just do an ad
service or something?
Or I was thinking every 5 minutes you throw in a random ad from anyone in the world, like Pepsi. Oh yeah. If Pepsi wanted to throw their ad to where they just if you get any game
that's a great
on your cell phone and the ad runs after every game of Uno you play. Right. Just run an ad every 5 minutes, and that's where I make my money. Yeah. I was like, well, what could I do this? I was thinking heavy on it because I already do it, and I think if you have a business in any community, small or big, where you have customers coming in, you throw a TV up and have people, because I think especially small businesses, it's very beneficial to have as much advertising as you can.
Right.
And so there's a few other people now in Owensville that have put up TVs, and I've been able to put my ad on their TV and they put their ad on my TV.
Right.
And it just gets me that visibility. It just gets my brand in front of more people's eyes.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big thing. It's just brand recognition.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if there's the way I look at it is there's 2 gyms in my area and the other guy doesn't advertise at all. No billboards, no digital ads, no Facebook marketing, no nothing like that. And then here I am over all platforms everywhere. Right. People are seeing my brand all the time. They might not go to the gym every month, but when they're ready to go.
Yeah, they're thinking of you guys.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you know, I've heard about that fitness parlor place.
That's probably my favorite part of marketing is branding, is getting a brand out there and educating people about it and getting it to where it's visible in people's mind. You know, logo creation, you know, that kind of thing, the artistic aspect of it, just the brand recognition.
Me too.
One of my favorite parts of it.
Me too. I actually love it. About all of it. It's just so fun. And actually that's a big reason why I want to go into big business versus small business is because I hate the fact that my gym can only stretch so far.
Right.
Because I want to reach more and more people. And I'm like, how much, like the excitement of growing the business is so fun. The excitement of trying to reach new customers and just, you know, be able to come up with new products. And it's not even about how much money I can make. It's about how much product can I move. It's fun whenever I'm like, I hit a new, like I'm like, oh, I sold double the amount of product I did last month. And was it because of my marketing? You know, like New Year's, I get a bunch of new customers just because it's New Year's. Yeah. But that month in May or June or July where it was just as many as January, and it was because I was hitting the marketing just right that month, and I was getting the advertising out there just right, and I was like, oh, that felt good.
Oh, I bet it did, yeah.
And so, but I noticed that I'm like, okay, I can't reach out. I can only hit my community. So like the surrounding towns around Owensville, and then Owensville is about the only community it can hit. Yeah. But a big business, there is no limit really to how far I can grow. If you have a product that you can sell across the world, that's like in my head, like that's what I want to try to do. And like, yeah, because I've hit a point where it's like I can't even pay for advertising on Highway 44 because what's it going to do for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's going to, or like I can't even, I can't put no advertisements up on 270 because why would someone see my billboard on 270 and be like, I want to go out to Owensville and work out. Yeah. So that's a big reason for me wanting to get into a bigger business.
Makes sense.
I love my gym and I love, everything about it, but at the same time, like I still want to grow. Yeah. This is just step one for me. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully it's step one for me. Well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
I feel like we've been in it for a while, and for me personally, it takes double the time to edit these videos as it does to record it. So I think we're an hour and a half in now, so it takes me 3 hours to edit it. So I'm sure we could sit here and probably just chat forever.
Oh yeah, of course.
But for my sake, because it takes some time to edit them. So one thing I like everyone to do, sign my banner.
Okay.
That way, just because I doubt I live here forever, and wherever I go, I'm hoping to take this podcast with me. Yeah. Whether I take it to an office at a business location or if I take it to my next residence, but I would like to have it as just a remembrance thing. Or even if I just give up on it one day, it'd still be cool to look back at everyone that came out. So I got this space right here, kind of open. Okay. That spot over there, you put it wherever you want, but
over there there's more room.
Yeah, there's more room, and I like to see it start to fill up, or maybe up top, or wherever you want. It doesn't matter.
Cool. Yeah, I can do that for sure.
And thank you so much for coming out on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Anyone that's listening to the podcast, go find HydroPro, like them. I don't know, you guys probably, ones listening, probably aren't going to be able to get helped out much by HydroPro, but Bourbon Cyclery. Yeah. If you guys are ever looking for a bike, or if you guys ever just have any questions with bikes, I mean, mine are spin bikes, stationary bikes for a gym, for a blacklight spin class. And I gave you a call and you were able to help me out there. You do maintenance on bikes, but you can sell them any type of bicycle. You have parts for bikes over there.
That's right.
You even had some skateboards, longboards, all kinds of different stuff in there for like that. You keep helmets. I mean, just every little thing. Yep. For that kind of stuff. And then just go on the social media pages and you got Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram as Bourbon Cyclery, and then LinkedIn for HydroPro. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So go find them there. Give them some love. Give them some likes. If you guys are still listening, make sure you guys like this podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends on all social medias. It really helps me grow. Like it's crazy that I get a lot of people that watch the podcast, and I get people all over the place, like talk about it and they're like, oh yeah, I really like this one and I really like what you're doing, but they don't want to like it and they don't want to subscribe it and they don't understand that, if they could get me to 1,000 subscribers, I can start getting paid for this.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference because then I can focus more on just growth, because I spend double the amount of time editing all this stuff. And if I could just work on just getting people in and doing more podcasts and growing and get more interesting people on, where I didn't have to worry about editing the podcast all the time and getting them uploaded. Because if I had someone that could just edit the podcast and then make clips for me, that way I could be publishing them and just building more. That's my whole goal. I don't even care about making enough money to like live off of. I would like some help with it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Be nice to have just somebody to help me edit a little bit, because that's the straining part of it all.
Well, I just thought of something else I did want to talk about. I apologize, but our bike race, Merrimack Gravel.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So it's our first. This was our first year doing it. It was held in September. Next year it'll be September 16th, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're trying to do there is we try to bring everybody in from all over the country really to ride in a gravel bicycle race. And this year we had 122 riders, if I remember right. We had a 25, a 50, and a 100-mile route. We had basically what we're doing is we have a very low cost. So if you go to like some of the big nationwide races, registration may be $100 per rider. We were charging $35, so way cheaper. But it's more about getting people in the community, getting them to shop local, getting them to see our community where we live, see the back roads we live in, and enjoy themselves by doing something fun and related to fitness and all that. And then the money we raise, we actually put back into the community. So this year I'm going to give out a scholarship for $500 to a student, which I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but planning on doing that. I'm also looking at helping out possibly our school's backpack program, donating some money to help out paying for food to go home with students. Just different ways to help out in the community, really. Yeah. And I'm hoping to grow that race pretty substantially. Next year, I'm hoping to see 250 riders. But it's a lot of fun. We had 110-mile route, 10,000 feet of climbing, and this is all on a bicycle. And the person who won it was 14.
Whoa!
Just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's a lot of fun.
And and does a lot of it go down Route 66?
Some of it. Basically, we started downtown Bourbon, and they rode down Route 66 and then cut off on gravel roads back through Leesburg. And the 50 and 100 milers went to Steelville and then back up through Leesburg. Very big hills and rough roads. And then the 50 milers.
Very cool countryside, though.
Oh, absolutely. Going through the Merrimack River Valley. They rode alongside the Merrimack River at one point. They crossed it twice. Just a lot of fun. And then the 100 milers continued north. They actually rode very close to your house here. They rode up north through Strain Japan, Spring Bluff, and back down. At the old routes, we took them to Bell and Owensville areas. So yeah, it's pretty incredible scenery and countryside they're riding. But in addition to the fitness aspect, camaraderie aspect, it's just really cool doing something that helps out the community in some way. So
absolutely,
yeah.
And you'll share it on Bourbon Cyclery.
Yeah, Bourbon Cyclery. You can find information about it because we're the primary sponsor of the event. But it's Merrimack Gravel is the name of the race, and that is on Facebook and Instagram as well. We have some drone footage and things that I don't really know enough about video editing to have put anything together for it yet. But yeah, it's just a great event.
Development, though.
So yeah,
cool, awesome. So look for that on this page, you guys. Yep. And thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.